G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video, and here we go, we're jumping into daily races for a change. We normally have focus on FIA, but we had a very interesting week of daily races indeed, so I decided to jump in and do a couple of different ones. We're going to start off with daily race A. Don't fret, the entire video is not this combination, so just hang in there. We do change very quickly to a different one. We do start off with daily race A. We're driving the BMW M3 1989 model, if I recall correctly, and we're at Autodromo Lago Maggiore West in reverse, so West 2. And we're jumping in with basically no practice. I did like 2 minutes practice and then jumped straight in. I had previously watched lap guides just to get the braking points, but yeah, 2 minutes practice, and you can see how much it kicks off at turn 1. About 4 cars go off the track, and there's like 3 people behind me now, and I'm still in 7th, so you know, a lot of positions still to gain. Now, one thing about this combination is that the car we're in is actually extremely sketchy. There's really not much grip here at all. We are on the sports medium tyres, so a little bit more grip than the sports hard tyres, which we all know and love. But still, we know how these road cars feel. Not as much grip like in comparison to sort of race cars, and the brakes aren't as good either. But basically, this is just about weight control. Just control the car and basically just know your braking points, and a lot of it will follow. There's not too much exit oversteer, it's more like high-speed stability. This car doesn't really have. These two people aggressively defending. Move back over to the right and meet me over here. This gap opens up on the outside here, coming down the back straight towards turn 8, 9 and 10 is this sequence here. So as we're going to try and go around the outside, we get a bump and have to cut the inside of turn 9, and we just end up cutting turn 10 as well. And we've gone up into 6th, but yes, we've got a little bit of a tap, so we're coming up into the second to last corner, turn 12, hit the brakes nicely into the apex, and this car spears me out of absolutely nowhere. Just comes in with the dive bomb and just spins me out. No redressing, no nothing, just flat out kills me, basically. So yeah, not that great. I was actually ascending through the field quite nicely, and it took the entire race to catch back up. You can see we're now on the final lap, and we finally caught up to the back of Darren and Dowa Ryu, so we'll see how this develops. Can we get a couple of final straggly positions in this race? So we're catching up to Darren, heading down the hill through the high-speed S's. It's so close to flat out these S's here, but we're just going to feather the throttle in the race. We don't want to risk going off the track, so we take a lot of that curb at turn 6, and then coming into the big banky boy, it's turn 7. We switch to the inside at the last second, but Darren manages to defend around the outside very well, so fair play to him for that. We're going to grab his slipstream, heading down the back straight now, so we've got an awkward gear change halfway up this very steep hill, so the car kind of jolts back a little bit, but we managed to just get the slipstream off the back of Darren. He's sort of defending a little bit weirdly, not quite picking where he wants to go, and he eventually commits to the inside, so we're going to try and go for the better run. I wasn't quite able to sort of get alongside him at any point, but once again, we're still trying to look for our way past. He's gone defensive up towards turn 11, and he's got the supreme inside. We get a better exit off turn 11. Going to be looking up the inside at turn 12, but Darren just brakes late. He does go slightly deep. It gives us the overlap, so we're going to be looking around the outside of the final turn. Just make sure we give him the curb on the inside, but instead he runs me out of road and smashes me into that barrier that sticks out there. Oh my goodness. So that's two dodgy incidents in that one race. I guess it's sort of my own fault for not qualifying, but you can see the driving standards are not as clean in these kind of lobbies as they are in maybe top split FIA, but lovely. We finished up in 8th. We were up in 5th at one point, and yeah, not so great. We did a quick qualifying time, and it puts us straight on pole position, so I'm really beginning to see quite quickly that this combination, this daily race A, is not where the competition is this week, but we'll see how we manage to fare in this race. Starting off pole position, we are in a standing start of course, but I'll just move over to the right to get in front of Miravan, and we manage to keep that position heading up into turn 1, so it's sort of an uphill entry, and then it tightens up towards the end of the corner. It's a little bit difficult to get that corner right, but once you do, there's a lot of time to be gained. We've already gained half a second at this point, so I think we're going to run away with this. But the next port of call is just breaking the slipstream. If someone can sort of get into the slipstream down the back straight, they can gain quite a bit. Granted, these cars, they don't have as much downforce and wings and stuff, so, you know, it's not as easy to catch back up in slipstream because of the difference between slip and no slip isn't as big. But eventually we did break the slipstream, heading through the high-speed downhill S's, and we managed to come across the line with 5.2 seconds ahead of the next car. So a lovely victory there. A 3-star result, pole position, fastest lap, and a clean race. Lovely as always. But here we go, we're going to go one more time, and as long as we can get a clean start, we've got OGR Sync Killer. He was the winner in the first race, so we've got a good amount of competition. Straight over to the inside, just to stop him going up the inside for turn 1. So he moves back to the outside. As long as we can get through turn 1 cleanly, I'm pretty confident that we can actually bring this one home. We managed to get onto the power nicely, and we managed to hold that position off Sync Killer. Nothing much happened. We managed to come across the line in first place again, 5.9 seconds ahead of Sync Killer. 6.0 actually by the end, so there we go, another victory. Pole position, fastest lap, clean race, easy peasy. So I could have kept doing that race to boost my DR, but it's really not as fun when you've got no one to race. It's basically just glorified time trial. So it was quite clear to me that that race this week was not where the competition was. Competition was here. Circuit de Sainte-Croix in Group 1. So Circuit de Sainte-Croix. I'm just going to have to flick over to the next page in my notes to get the track stats and track info here. But we're going to jump in once again with very little practice. Only a few minutes practice done. And we've gone for the Tomahawk, the Dodge SRT Tomahawk Group 1. So very weird car. It's actually a VGT. We don't generally select those when we're in Group 1 too much. I'm generally either a Group C or an LMP1. But the VGT cars are actually quite strong here because they have a good amount of downforce and very high top speed. So, coming into turn 2, someone spun out, I got a little bit of a tap behind, and we get another tap behind. Now, we've got LMP1 cars swarming the back of me. I get overtaken either side by LMP1 cars. So, it's a very interesting dynamic in this week of racing in Race C. Group 1, we know how sort of imbalanced Group 1 can be, and this race kind of really highlights it. The difference between your VGT cars and your LMP1 cars is quite large. However, across the distance of the lap, they're pretty balanced, but sort of in half a lap, each car is stronger than the other by quite a significant amount. So the LMP1 cars, they all have, well, most of them in fact have a hybrid system, so they have a large battery to accompany the engine, so the battery deploys extra horsepower on the exit of corners. So the VGT cars in general don't really have that, so on the exit of sort of the low to mid-speed corners, the VGT cars are going to lose out, as this Audi VGT does lose out there, and we managed to get the position up in 9th. So on the exit of these low and mid-speed corners, the LMP1 cars are going to drive away. But by the end of the straights, because the LMP1 cars have sort of a lot more aero surfaces compared to the VGT cars, at the end of the straight, the VGT is able to basically gain back any time lost. And thankfully, to help with such, we have a very, very long straight here at Circuit de Sainte-Croix, a 1.8 kilometre long straight running from turn 15 to turn 16, which we're just finishing up now. It's a very good opportunity to get into the slipstream of a slower car and overtake, and we have a very high-speed downforcey section after, so the LMP1 cars, they're going to get overtaken down the straight and not be able to re-overtake until we get up towards turn 2. So, that was the dynamic for this race. We've also got a little bit of strategy in here. We've got medium and soft tyres available, and it was kind of a toss-up over which tyre you can start on. So both tyres were mandatory, so you had to do a one-stop, and you can either start on the soft or the medium if you want. Some people like to start on the soft and drive away and do the medium with less fuel. Another group of people like to start on the medium and do the soft with less fuel, so it's really up to you. There's a lot of variation that can be done there, which is nice to see. I think we need that in Daily Race C, so this is actually a very good race this week. A little bit of an awkward move there at turn 1. Someone pulled out to go for the move, but I did not deem them to be halfway alongside, although it does not matter because I end up crashing and the entry to turn 2. So we get overtaken by one car, and we've got another 2 cars heading up the inside towards turn 2. Towards turn 3 actually. We're 3 abreast heading in towards turn 3. Not really where you want to be, but one of them goes deep, and I unfortunately get kind of caught on their outside a little bit, and Chi-Chi in the Bugatti VGT follows them through, and I'm now down in 10th. So another bit of an issue. This track is actually a very good track, but sort of the first few sectors up until sort of the bridge, someone bins it there, we managed to get up position there, sort of all the way from the start of the circuit up until the start of the bridge is sort of single file in these cars. There's a lot of aero wash, very difficult to get work done. But someone went off, so we're up into 8th, and we're going to be looking to try and get a slipstream move on this Bugatti, but he unfortunately had the slipstream of another car and got out of the slipstream range of me. We catch right up to the back of this LMP1 car, and I just get a massive kick of oversteer, but we managed to save it, heading up through this high-speed section. We're in the slipstream of the LMP1 car, so we've got a little bit of dirty air, having to feather the throttle through turn 19 that time. That turn can be taken flat out once it gets correct. And then we've got someone recovering from an error and unghost right in front of me with a penalty, so we run into the back of them, but we managed to get past, so we're going to be looking to just make sure we get a decent exit from the final corner. We just slightly tapped the LMP1 car we've been fighting with now, Darmacardi. Through the final corner, we get the power down nicely, but you can see he has hybrid deployment and manages to get a lot of speed. You can see as the straight goes on, the VGT begins to exceed the top speed of the LMP1, and the car behind was not able to get that move done, and I'm able to get up the inside at turn 1 on this LMP1 car, and I'm able to hit the brakes nicely and get up the inside. The LMP1 car goes slightly deep and I get a better exit, but this corner here, turn 2, is probably the best place for the LMP1 cars to get their hybrid deployment down, and he can gain a lot of time coming out of that corner there. The other cars serve their penalties, we don't have to worry about them anymore, and then coming into turn 3, we managed to just hold position, which is very good, where if we're able to stay ahead of an LMP1 car up until sort of turn 3, generally I found it pretty easy to stay ahead. What doesn't make it easy to stay ahead is when I begin to make mistakes, and we do have to remember I jumped in with basically no practice. I think it was about 2 minutes practice, and 2 minutes does not quite get you to this part of the lap in general, so I was not able to practice this part of the lap too much, so I actually bin it coming through the high-speed section there. Thankfully that was the in lap for our medium stint, so you can do like a 3-4 lap split. Doing 4 laps on the softs, of course, because they're the faster tyre, and they last 4 laps, which is good. So we go into the pits for our soft stint. We're currently 45 seconds off the lead, but there is a pit stop to be done in there, assuming the leader starts on soft and do 4 laps. This will be the leader's in lap. So we skip ahead, we take a little bit of time to catch up to the next car, but we just slipstream clean past that Audi VGT as the leader goes in, 47 seconds ahead of me now, so we're not quite up to the pace yet, but hopefully we can as the week goes on. We managed to just about get up the inside of this LMP1 car on the exit of turn 16, and we just sweep around the outside of turn 17. We've now got the clear air, but unfortunately we make this mistake coming into turn 23, just catching the gravel on the outside of the curb. Obviously too far to the left in that braking, and the car just sort of understeered off, and the game thought I attempted to wall ride and gave me a 1.5 second penalty despite me losing 2 positions there. Car goes into the pit, so we actually gain 1 back, and we're just going to be weaving across this track here to try and get our dirt off the tyres, having gone wide at the final corner. So we're going to serve this halfway along the top straight in between turn 2 and 3 of the following lap, and we find ourselves in 9th. We make this mistake, no, someone else makes a mistake. Someone else made a mistake. I thought I made a mistake then, but thankfully I don't. I actually make it on the final lap, so we gained 1 position, and then we began to push quite hard and ended up doing this. So, yeah, another nice pirouette into the gravel. Currently 45 seconds off the lead still, and that was the end of that race, and we weren't able to gain any more positions. So a lot of work to do to get up to the front here. Very, very difficult combination. So I actually tried to experiment a bit with different cars, because sort of depending on the region there was a different car at the top, so it was clear to me that a lot of cars could be on the pace. So in EMEA, the Audi VGT was the top of the timesheet, so I decided to give it a go, but I found it to be very understeer. As you can see, I understeer out of the second corner. It's also 4-wheel drive with hybrid, so it's got a lot of sort of power understeers. We see there, we go wide there, so I actually give it another go. And I think I actually managed to get a lap in. I do, a 254.9, but then coming into turn 16, the back end just completely steps out as I'm going down the gears, and then I'm understeering just for days trying to get back on the power, and I was like, you know what, there was no way I was going to get confident in that car. So we go for a LMP1 car, the Toyota TS050 Hybrid. I found this to be a very understeery machine for no real reason at all. So we understeer wide on the exit of the final corner, but I've put that down to not being very experienced with this car, so we're going to try and just get through the final corner nicely, which we do indeed that time. But I managed to find myself understeering at turn 2 and understeering at turn... what turn's that? That's turn 4, isn't it? Turn 4 and turn 7. We understeer wide, and I think we understeer here too at turn 8. Trying to get onto the power, we just understeer into the gravel and do another pirouette, so that car was not for me either. Eventually I've decided, you know what, I'm just going to settle with the Tomahawk. Maybe there are faster cars out there, but I feel as though I can get quite comfortable in the Tomahawk, which was the top of the timesheets, or very close to the top of the timesheets in Oceania. So, let's have a look. We managed to understeer quite a lot on this qualifying session, coming through turn 14. It is an uphill off-camber left-hander with a bump halfway through, and we're understeering a lot through this downhill right-hander onto the back straight. So, I decided at this point that I'm actually going to bin that off. Let's have a look at the top time. So let's have a look at the state of the timesheets in Oceania. Actually, Audi VGT on the top. Pega has the fastest time in the Tomahawk, but there's no replay available. Legacy is the next Tomahawk with no replay. The first Tomahawk with a replay is PX7 Twitchy. So we're going to have a look at his lap, or sort of some of the pressure points of his lap. This video will obviously be too long if I leave every bit of footage I want in. So we're just going to be seeing and trying to copy what he does, very close to that apex of turn 2, very street circuit-esque corner with barriers right up to the edge of the circuit. So we just skip ahead and change to the view that I'll be using in the race anyway. So this long drawn out right-hander, he actually goes very wide and meets that curb very close to the gravel. It's a very dangerous thing to do in the race. In qualifying I can see the benefit, and basically what I'm noticing is just there's a lot of minimal brake. He's not using the brake as basically for as much as he can get away with. So very little brake, minimizing brake pressure, and then coming down the hill, we're going to be seeing how he enters the bridge. He doesn't brake to the end of the curb on the left and gets on the power halfway through the bump on the entry to the bridge, and then this understeery left-hander up a hill. He actually drops to second gear for extra rotation. We're going to see how he tackles this long right-hander out onto the back straight now. Not much brake at all. He's actually carrying throttle all the way through the corner, so he gets the brake done, and then he's on the throttle basically before the apex. So coming at the end of the straight, he actually keeps quite a tight apex and then trends out towards the curb on the exit. Just going to fast forward through here, flat out through turn 16. He's not touching any grass at all, and then we're going to see how he does this turn, braking just on the ambulance on the right, and then turning in at the same time as the brake to get the front to bite into the road, and he manages to carry full throttle all the way up the hill until we get to the 100 meter board. He's a little bit wide off turn 23, so there's time in this lap that tells me. And coming into the final corner, we're going to see his minimum apex speed. It is 217 kilometers an hour through the final corner, 2 wheels on the grass on the exit, and that was a very polished lap indeed, except for turn 23. I feel as though there was some time in there. So now we're going to go out in the Tomahawk and see what we can do in terms of qualifying. I obviously want to qualify higher up the field because it's a bit of a mess further back. But our first lap out was a 254.2. We beat our Audi VGT time on the first lap in the Tomahawk. And then coming through here, we just run 4 wheels onto the grass and it just spears the car on the second flying lap. We were up, I think we were like over a second up on that time there, so that's a little bit disappointing that we managed to crash there. And it takes us so long to recover this car because the track sort of gets a little bit narrow on this part here. But we go for another flyer, we get a 252.8, so we improve there. Coming through the final corner this time, we get 4 wheels on the grass there. We're 2/10 up, however, but I decided I wanted to get some dirt off the tyres, so we just do a little dance across the line. It's still an improvement though, 252.6. And then coming through this corner on this flying lap, we are behind the Ghost. We were pushing very hard, and we've done another pirouette. A lot of ballet dancing going on. So we start a new session just to sort of clear our mind. And then our second flying lap, a 252.1. And then coming through here, we've done this mistake as we did in the first race, and we've binned it there. We were marginally up as well, but we do settle with a 252.1. I could probably go a little bit faster. I think a 251, even a mid 251 is possible for me, but we've settled with that, and you can see it's put us on pole position for this race. So let's have a look at the cars behind. This puts another very interesting sort of twist on this race. The way your race can go can very much be decided at the very start of the race. If you start ahead of like 3 or 4 LMP1 cars, you're going to get overtaken off the start of the race, and then you're in traffic. But thankfully the pack kind of all backs up behind me, and I managed to actually get myself quite a bit of a gap, although I've got a wall of LMP1 cars coming, so I know I've got to go defensive in this particular instance. And 2 of them are going to look around the outside, with 3 abreast coming into turn 2 or turn 3 on the brakes just before the last billboard on the right hand side of the circuit. We're going to keep it nice and tight into the apex of turn 3 and onto the power nicely. So we are actually ahead coming up through this sort of first, or it's actually the second and third sector, isn't it? It's very difficult to follow a car, so the fact that we've got the clear air through here is actually very good. And we've started on the medium tyres. That's another thing. So what you can do is blindside everybody and start on the medium tyre. So you can start on the medium tyre and just hold everyone up, and then you can go on your soft and have a pace advantage. So by starting on the medium and holding up soft tyre runners, you're eliminating the advantage that the soft tyre runners have on you at that point of the race, because they can only run as fast as the person ahead of them unless they overtake. So if you can sort of back everyone up, that's very advantageous for you. But then coming in through turn 10 and down the hill, we're going to be looking to try and defend this position, and kind of just remains all the same. He remains about 3/10 behind up until this point. So on the exit of turn 15, this is where the VGT cars really have an advantage. So the LMP1 cars don't have the top speed. The corner preceding the straight is fast enough for the LMP's hybrid not to actually deploy, so we get a very good advantage down this 1.8 kilometre long straight, and that just pulls our face, the guy behind, pulls the Malaysian driver out of my slipstream range. So you can see on the exit of turn 16, we are 1 second ahead. So we skip ahead to the end of lap 2, we're 4.3 seconds ahead, but my internet connection has just dropped from 3 bars to 2. That's a very ominous warning there. I'm in a very good position in terms of this race because I'm still on the medium tyres, and I'm going to pit and have a pace advantage. We've dropped to 1 bar connection. That's not good at all. And as we fast forward up towards turn 2, turn in, and yeah, we have disconnected mid-race. It's been a very long time since that has happened, so it was quite unfortunate there. I've been basically denied what would have been a very easy victory, and the game views that as a as like a quit. So I lost DR and SR because of that. So we just have to forget that race ever happened. We could just pretend it was a victory because it was going to be, I guess, unless I crashed. But we move on. We're going to try and have another race. We're up against some LMP1 cars off the start of the race. Someone on pole, and then the 2 positions behind me are all LMP1 cars. So they deploy their hybrid off the start, and I get overtaken already. I have once again started on the medium tyre, so I am sort of, I'm going to say that I'm prepared to get stuck in traffic. I'm not okay with it, but I'm prepared to. I want to have the clear air for the soft stint, so I'm not too worried about getting held up off the start, just because I'm not wasting my soft tyre. So out of that corner, the LMP1 cars have all driven off. The leader has a 2.6 second advantage on me already. We slide very deep, or go very deep, brake too late into turn 3, and graze the wall on the exit. Very difficult at the start on the cold medium tyres. There's very little grip compared to what you're time trialling with, so it's very easy to sort of get that wrong. So it was sort of all remained the same all through lap 1 until this point, where this person bins it on the entry to the bridge. He has a little bit of hybrid deployment there, so the overspeed's not as massive as you might think, but the overspeed is still enough to get past him at that point there. So coming through this left-hander, we're going to be coming up to the long straight, and you can see by the end of it he was not able to get into slipstream. 1.2 seconds ahead still of the Japanese driver behind, and still 3.8 seconds off the lead. we skip ahead to the end of lap 3, so this is where we're going to be going in for our pit stop. We're 6.6 seconds off the lead. That's okay, because they're going to probably be on soft tyre. We're just going to be looking to gain that time back. We come into the pits and put on the soft tyre, and we get overtaken by a couple of cars on the exit, so there's quite a large speed difference on the exit of the pit compared to someone who is still on a flying lap. So we get overtaken by virtue of that, but it is of course the same for everyone. Everyone has to do that slow pit exit at some point. We catch up to this SRT Tomahawk at just about the right time, coming up towards the straight. So if we can get a very good exit out of this corner, which I think we have, he actually grazes the wall on the exit, so we're not going to be quite close enough to get a good slingshot. He's going to have the slipstream off the back of the LMP1 car, driven by R-Face. So we're both grabbing the slipstream off the LMP. We go past the LMP, and now the Tomahawk ahead does not have slip, and I do off the back of the Tomahawk. So I managed to get 2 moves done down that straight, and I catch right up to the back of Pennington. As you can see on the exit here, he gains a little bit of time on the exit, but we have gone back into slipstream range. Heading through this fast sequence in the final couple of sectors, we've caught right up to the back of Pennington. At the perfect moment, he goes into the pit, so we don't get stuck in his dirty air too much. And we come past the pit exit, just making sure no one comes out, and we equalise in third, so everyone behind has gone into the pits. We equalise in third. Not too bad, 6.4 seconds off the lead, and we actually have a car ahead. So I think now all we've got to do is try and get past this car ahead as quick as humanly possible, and then we've just got to go pedal to the metal. We've got 6.5 seconds to catch up and 3 laps to do it, or 2 and a bit laps to do it for the race win. So we're going to be looking to get past this LMP1 as quick as possible. He runs slightly deep into turn 3, and unfortunately that's just relegated me to be stuck behind the LMP1 car all through this second and third sector, and we know how difficult it is to follow, so we're just stuck in the dirty air. There's nothing I can do until we get to the sort of straight sections where I could slipstream past him, but we're stuck in this dirty air at the moment. The gap to the lead has opened up to 7.3 seconds at this point. So we're losing time to the leader all through this first part of the lap. It really has just sort of cemented to me I'm definitely faster than this guy. We get into the slipstream on the entry to the 1.8 kilometre long straight, and you can see by about 2/3 of the way down we've got that overtake done, and into the braking zone as long as we don't get punted, which I successfully avoid, and we've actually broken the toe to the guy behind. So we've now been released 6.2 seconds behind Puny, and at the end of the lap, that's 6.0, so we're going to be seeing what that gap is at the end of each lap. At the end of the next lap, end of lap 7, 4.5, so I've got 1 lap to go with 4.5 seconds worth of time gap between us, but I don't think it's quite enough. As we skip to the end, we only closed that gap by about 0.6 of a second during that lap to Puny, and we managed to come across the line in 3.9 seconds behind him. So it really just goes to show how you do this race is really, there's a lot of factors into it, isn't there? So if you don't pick an LMP1 car, it's crucial you don't get stuck in traffic, and it's crucial you remain ahead going into the second and third sector. So if you can do that, you probably have a good chance. But if you get stuck in traffic or get stuck behind an LMP1 car, or, I don't know, you crash, you don't get the gap big enough on the exit of turn 2, so the hybrids overtake you. There's a lot there, and I think the traffic is the most important, but I definitely do think in the back of my mind that the medium to soft is slightly superior. I think there's time to be gained as long as the race goes your way, and that's the crucial bit. That's the end of this video. I've actually got another video tomorrow, so a little bit more Daily Race C action. Daily Race A was just a load of nothing, really, wasn't it? I did 1 qualifying time and it put me on pole position. So, competition was not there, but there is very high competition in Daily Race C. It's sainte-croix. So we're going to be continuing that next video. But that's going to finish up this one today. Do hit that like button if you enjoyed, and do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. Do leave a comment as well. Questions, comments, and constructive criticism, as always, very much appreciated. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.